to join. It really is a great honor to see so many people wanting to join us from so many different countries. And I can see some very familiar names, both from Greece and also from the organization, from Mexico. Hi, Graham, there, different people, and so on. Thank you very, very much for giving me your time. Really, really is an honor. I hope it won't be a waste of your time. What I really want to do is sort of share some of my reflections on the move online. So I see that we're reaching 264, 266. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to kick it off. Hopefully there'll be an opportunity with the chat box to ask some questions at the end. Hopefully, if not, then I'm sure we can find a way of communicating with each other, either through the British Council or through Forum and the ELT News. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to share my screen. It's a very simple PowerPoint. It's a little bit naked, I must admit, so I hope it comes up. The title of the talk today is the good, the bad, and the ugly of going online. And this is from my perspective, which is very much a kind of face-to-face teacher with a little bit of experience in remote and distance learning, but largely a classroom teacher. Although some people would probably say not necessarily a teacher, some people would probably say a joker or a presenter or an entertainer, those of you who've seen me. Okay, so let's start the talk today. And what I want to do first of all is to show you 3 slides. I hope the screen hasn't, it seems like the screen might have frozen there. So I'm going to stop sharing and reshare again. Hold on, just 1 second. So 3 symbols, a triangle, a circle, and a square. And I guess without much thought, we could probably assign some meanings to these symbols. The circle is probably the sign of completeness, totality. The triangle, probably the sign of, well, many things really, wisdom, balance, perhaps, and the square, the sign or the symbol of stability. So what I want to talk about today is the change to online learning in terms of completeness, in terms of totality as an experience, in terms of stability, and in terms of balance. So let's start off. It looks like, for those of you who were brought up in the 1970s in the UK, it looks like a kind of play school window where we would journey through the shapes to see a story or to read a story. So let's look at the first, the triangle. So going online, has there been a change in balance? Okay, a change in balance. A balance in terms of what? In terms of what makes good teaching or what makes a good teacher. I guess like all of you or most of you, we've all grown as teachers. I mean, when I first walked into the classroom in 1986, I must say I was probably ignorant, very, very ignorant. And today, all those years later, I'm probably slightly less ignorant. In the beginning, I had very few teaching qualities, only those innate qualities to work with people, because I love people. And over the time as a teacher, I became, from an ignorant teacher, I became a technically competent teacher. I learned some techniques. I became more professional. And as time passed, this combination of personal qualities, techniques, knowledge, made me more of an artistic teacher, the artistic teacher which you are today. The question that I ask myself is the artistic teacher, the face-to-face artistic teacher, transferred to an online environment? I'd like to reflect on a little story, nothing to do with the online environment, but many, many years ago when I was doing a Cambridge Delta. In those years it was called a DTEFLA. I had the honor to be observed by one of our very well-known colleague. And I had spent the previous night preparing all the materials, making sure that the method was appropriate and could stand up to scrutiny. And I walked into the class the next day, a face-to-face class, and I started teaching, thinking in a sense that the job had almost been done. The materials were perfect. I believe they were. The methods could stand up to any questioning. The look on the students' faces, though, was anything but impressed. In fact, halfway through the lesson, one of my students in Greek said, and I do apologize for the bad language, "Ti malakias in αυτό," which for those of you who are not Greek or attending today means, what rubbish is this? A shock, but also a sign that for the students, what was really valuable to them was not just up-to-date, innovative materials or methods which help them learn, but also a human manner. And for me, ever since that day, I've always strongly believed that, you know, what makes a good teacher, what makes good teaching is a combination of manner, materials, and methods, but manner trumps it all. Now, has there been a change online? I don't think there's been an obvious change, but looking at all the feeds that I get in terms of my emails, both from my organization, both from the publishers and so on, there is very much a focus on methods at the moment. Very much a focus on, for example, those of us who use Zoom, on how to use polling functions, or how to create breakout rooms, or the safety feature of a waiting room. So going online, has there been a change of balance? Perhaps there has. Perhaps there's a danger that we're slipping towards teaching as seeing a series of techniques, online techniques, and not remembering, perhaps, and I say perhaps, the importance of manner, the importance of the smile, the importance of the loving voice, and so on. So has there been a change of balance? Perhaps. And if there has, we need to readdress it. We need to start thinking about the tools that are available to them, but the people in front of and behind those tools. Now, for me, balance is not just a matter of manner, materials, and methods. It's also a matter of people. Ordinarily, I suppose, and I guess here I'm thinking in a young learner context because my background is essentially children. That's a bit of a lie. I'm an engineer who ended up teaching children and loved teaching children. I don't know if children love being taught by me, but that's another question. But when we teach children, the success of any learning with children is dependent on three people, really, I think. And in the background, there are a great many more. It obviously depends on the child, the teacher, and the parent. And I would say that in a face-to-face lesson or in a face-to-face school, in a normal classroom, that teacher-child relationship is key to learning, successful learning. And the parent very often provides a very supportive role, or is encouraged to provide a supportive role, encouraged to get engaged meaningfully with their child's learning rather than criticize it or test it and so on. Although, I mean, in all the years that I've been working with children and parents, I don't know how many parents actually get involved meaningfully with their children's learning. So has there been a change in balance? I think there has. Because now, as we've moved on, for the teacher in a school context to be able to to be able to deliver his or her lesson successfully. He or she needs a very, very strong, or at least a very, very confident support network behind him or her to deal with the problems that come up before the class. For example, how do the children connect to Zoom? To deal with the problems during the class. What happens if children don't connect? You need someone to call them, okay? And to deal with any problems around the lesson. So has there been a change in balance? Yeah. The back office, so to speak, has become very, very important to the teacher. And the supportive value of the back office is now very, very clear. There's also, I think, been a change from the point of view of the parent. Yesterday, for example, I was delivering an online lesson. I was very, very aware of the fact that I was teaching not just children, but also the occasional parent who popped in with a glass of water or a toast or something bigger, and so on there. Parents now have a very valid and reliable opinion about what's going on because they see it. They perhaps spy on it, they look over the shoulder, and in some cases, they have very strong opinions about what should and shouldn't be done and how it should be done. What we've seen, for example, in our context, is the amount of interaction between parents and the British Council about the way we teach has grown. Not criticism or negativity, although criticism and negativity is part of it, but questions. Because teaching is on display, parents are much more interested or much more keen or much more curious to find out what's going on in the classroom. So going online, has there been a change in balance? To summarize, I think yes. I think we've taken a step away from manner and more towards the stress about learning the techniques, learning the methods, and so on. And I think now that teacher-child relationship, which is fundamental to learning, has been strengthened in many, many ways. Not always, though, by A, the evidence back office support that a teacher needs, and by B, positive, hopefully, parent interaction around the learning. That's the end of my triangle. If you remember, the second shape that I had for you today was a circle. And the circle was this whole idea of totality, okay? Completeness. And the question that I want to ask you, I hope you can see it on the screen because there are all sorts of things flashing on my screen at the moment, is going online. Are we doing more or are we doing less? Well, to answer that question, we have to challenge ourselves. We have to say to ourselves, who are we? What are we? We're teachers. But we mustn't look at ourselves narrowly in terms of teachers of English. Yes, our job is to teach English. But more importantly, we teach children, people, learners, through English. In other words, let's think about the person. And if we think about people, and those of you who've got an early years background will recognize some of the terms here on this slide. If we think about teaching people, then there are probably 8, 9, or 10 different ways in which people, children in particular, are developed through teaching. Okay, literacy, communication, mathematics, creative expression, motor skills, social development, emotional awareness, understanding the world. In other words, what we're saying is, or what I'm saying to you, it's quite clear, is that when we walk into the classroom, we teach language, yes. But we also, through the activities we choose, teach mathematics. We ask people to compare things, perhaps, or to rate things, that's mathematics. We ask people to draw things, draw new words, that's creative expression. We ask people to take part in role plays, that's macro motor skills, and so on. So our job as teachers is not simply teaching language. If we go to the online classroom now, are we doing more or are we doing less? I have some questions here, questions which are probably concerns. For example, about communication. Yes, I'm a language teacher, but I will very often find myself in the online language classroom participating in a somewhat artificial communication by nominating people all the time. George, what do you think? Electra, What's your opinion? Mariana, do you agree? Yes, there is communication. Yes, there is language being used. Yes, we are talking. But I mean, is real life communication all about naming people before you speak to them? George, what do you think? I doubt it. So I think in this context, though not all contexts, somehow the move online has kind of, what can I say, warped communication. It's the same for motor skills. Motor skills. As teachers, what we want to do with our children through role play and so on and so forth. Now, of course, there's no reason why we can't do role play online. But what happens is essentially the role play, the expression that a child can have is limited by the size of the screen. You can't see my hands now. There. So rather than training children, rather than using role play, for example, to train to help children learn, we tend to sort of think about micro skills. What we teach on the screen, for example, is how to move things around, or how to move boxes, or how to fill in things there. What I want to say, if I haven't been clear, is that moving online doesn't really allow learners and children to perform in the classroom context, or at least in the classroom context that I'm talking about there. There are some advantages, of course. Not only do we develop literacy, but we develop digital literacy. But look at these last ones here: social development and emotional awareness. I wonder how real a society, or how close to a real society, a virtual society is. How close to a real classroom can a virtual classroom be? Are children aware of the feelings of other children in the virtual classroom? Can they see these feelings in their eyes, written on their faces? I'm not sure. So going online, more or less? Well, if we narrowly think about our job as being teachers of language, I would say probably there's little or no change. But the language has probably become a little bit more formulaic, a little bit more emblematic. But if we think about our jobs as being to develop people or to help people grow, then clearly there have been some changes, and clearly the online environment poses some challenges for developing individuals and developing their social awareness. That's my opinion. So we've looked at going online in terms of a triangle. We've looked at going online in terms of a circle. The triangle is balance. Has there been a change in balance? Has there been any shift in balance? And do we do more or less? Let's go to our final shape. And the final shape, if you remember, was the square. And the square, if you remember, was not balance, was not totality or completion. It was this whole idea of stability. Now, I've sourced, you'll see there's a square and you will recognize the character, Mickey Mouse. Of course, Mickey Mouse is Disney. I'll come to that in a moment. But what I've done on the left is I've sourced some of the foundations, some of the factors. I think it's from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where in order for learning to occur, a learner needs these things, needs physiological conditions to be met, needs a space, a quiet space, a comfortable space, needs safety, no fear of interruption, no physical danger, needs security, love and belonging, needs esteem and respect. We all know that. We know that for learning to take place, the learner has to feel confident and comfortable. Now, what's the connection with Disney? Well, Walt Disney, we all know him for Sleeping Beauty, Pinocchio, Jumbo, and so on and so forth. But do we know him for his Disney rooms? No, these are not adventure rooms. Walt Disney, when he was being creative, had 3 rooms, 3 spaces, 3 physical spaces. His first space was called his creative space. I don't remember if this was his bedroom or his living room, but he had a space where he dreamt. He had a space where he created, where he imagined, where he dreamed. And then what he did, once he had a dream, he changed his physical space. And he went to what it was called his reality space. I think it's called a realistic space. I don't remember the term. And there he would take the dream and he would think about it practically. He would think about it in terms of time. He would think about it in terms of cost. He would think about it in all the things which make the world go round. So having looked at his dream realistically, he would then think, but is it worthwhile? He would criticize his dream and he would go to another space, another room, and it's called the critical space. And he would tear his dream apart. And he would say, should I? Shouldn't I? Is this the best way forward? And so on. Disney, well known for Mickey Mouse. Disney, well known for Donald Duck. But Disney, also well known for these Disney rooms. And I buy into these Disney rooms very, very much. I don't necessarily buy into this whole concept of a creative room or a realistic room or a critical room. But I'll tell you that there is a space in my house where I dream. Now, for you, it might be your kitchen. It might be your garden. For me, it might be my bathroom. It might be my bedroom. But there is a space. There is a space in my house right now during this lockdown where I work, where I am practical, where things are switched on and things switched off. It's not my dreaming space there. And this is what I want to put to you now. Going online. Children, the space in which we teach them, the learning space, the online space, is the place in which they sleep, perhaps. The space in which they play, perhaps. The space in which they dream, perhaps. I don't know if that is right. A classroom is a classroom. A house needs a teaching and learning space, which the child can associate with teaching and learning, not just the computer in the bedroom. So I wonder if in delivering lessons into children's bedrooms, for example, or into areas where they play, for example, I wonder if this won't have some effect on child well-being. So I've talked about going online in terms of balance. I've talked about it in terms of totality, and I've talked about it in terms of stability. The title of my talk is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And let me summarize what the good, the bad, and the ugly are. Okay? So, the good. We did it. Schools closed. Here in Greece, schools closed on March the 11th. And within 1 week, within 2 weeks, we had re-established contact with our children. We did it. It was a great stress. It was a great strain. We all worked and did far more than could ever be expected. We did it. It is an achievement which will probably mark our careers in many, many ways. The bad. In doing this, in succeeding, in going online, let's be aware that maybe, just maybe, we might become smaller as teachers. What do I mean? In a Zoom environment, it's a great danger that I might start thinking about my lesson as sharing a PowerPoint, having a breakout room, and then a poll at the end. Let us not be led by the means or the possibility of the means. Remember that manner and passion on the screen is the most important thing, or I consider it to be one of the most important things in terms of learning. So we did it. But we might become smaller if we worry too much about the technology. The ugly? Is there an ugly part? Well, I hope not. But you'll notice that as I highlight things, they become smaller and smaller in terms of font and perhaps a little bit fainter. What I'm trying to express here is strength. We did it. Let's be proud. There's a slight fear that we as teachers might become a bit smaller. But we should also be very, very concerned Have we thought about the well-being of those we teach? In entering children's bedrooms, in entering children's rooms, in showing them how to use technology, do we perhaps not expose them to greater risks? Do we not perhaps take away their one silent place, their one quiet place, that when they wake up in the morning, they see the computer and they see their lessons? Is there a possibility that we could do more harm than good in all of this? I hope not, okay? But we need to think about this. So thank you very, very much for your time. What I'm going to do now is to stop the share, and I'll go into chat to see if there are any questions for me. Thank you very, very much. Okay. Thank you very much for your comment. It's been really, 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 really an honor to have so many people here. Thank you so much. Thank you there. As I say, just my opinion, my impression, for what it's worth. But it's always worth thinking about. Okay. Thank you. So thank you. The comments are going fast and furious in the chat board, and I can barely see them. And even if I try to catch them, I keep on getting knocked off where I am. So I'll try. Yeah. What matter? I mean, thank you very much for some of those comments. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay. I think there are some new messages there. Thanks a lot. To the point. Thank you. I still prefer face-to-face teaching. That's a very interesting thing. I've always considered myself to be a face-to-face teacher, if that's a term, face-to-face teacher. It's amazing how we have to qualify this now, okay? But recently, because of teacher absenteeism and teacher illness, I've had to take on a fair bit of teaching with the British Council. And I must say that it's really just as enjoyable as long as we teachers remember that we are the teachers and not just the users of the equipment. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very, very much. I think now the time's coming up. Okay, great. I'm just going to read the comments through, and maybe Dimitris will join us in a moment. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Radini, for your thoughts. Thank you. I hope we aren't criticized as traditional. I don't know who said that, and so on and so forth. Then, an interesting thing. When we went online, I asked myself, am I up to this as a teacher? Do I really want to do this? Because I must admit that in terms of my set of values, I do believe in the closeness of human spirit, the closeness of I don't want to say the word bodies and so on there. That almost led me to sort of reject going online, first of all. I don't think it's a good idea. We shouldn't be doing it. We're having to do it. We're doing it for different reasons. We're not doing it for the right reasons. But then again, the reasons are defined by us as the teachers. You take yourself into the classroom. You take yourself into the Zoom session or to the breakout rooms and so on there. So it is a good idea. But we've just got to be, like most things, we've just got to be careful. We have to take the step forward. We have all taken that step forward, but also not get swallowed by the technology. Okay, let the technology serve us rather than us serving it. That's what I would say there. Okay. Thank you very, very much for your remarks. I think now, as it's coming up to 5:30, I think now I have to leave you all. So thank you very, very much. Many of you will know where to find me at the British Council Greece, Athens. And for those of you who are not from Greece and so on and so forth there, and you'd like a copy of the presentation or you'd like to have a chat about some of this, please drop a line to Dimitris or to Sula Spidopoulou at ELT News and Forum and so on, and they'll put you in contact with me, or please drop me a line through the British Council Customer Services desks in Athens. Thank you very, very much. Goodbye. Thank you.